As of now, there is roughly just a week left till the highly anticipated version 2.3 drops, which is also considered as the first anniversary version update for WutheringWaves. Prior to the recent livestream, we already knew we would be receiving the one and only Zani within the first phase and Ciaccona within the second phase. But it was revealed during the livestream that pretty much every character is returning for the anniversary aside from the characters that dropped in 2.2. So if players already felt a bit overwhelmed with 4 characters being available during certain versions, well, the anniversary banner selection is seriously going to hit like a truck with a total of 12 available characters. So with that, I'll be pretty much speedrunning through each of the available characters and specifically going over the value each of them hold, what they specialize in, the team flexibility they each possess. Then I'll wrap it up with which characters in particular would provide the most long-term value for your account. Just before we jump into it, as always, would really appreciate it if you could subscribe for more WutheringWaves content and drop a like if you enjoyed the video. Now, just to get this out of the way, if you really aren't concerned about the amount of value a character may hold and do prioritize aesthetics and design instead, then you really can't go wrong with any of the characters you pull, since WutheringWaves has really done an amazing job at keeping pretty much every limited 5-star character relevant. Of course, certain characters will hold a bit more value overall than others, but for the most part, limited 5-star characters as of now are still great in majority of content. Aside from that, and to just clear up some misconceptions regarding the banners, in Phase 1 and Phase 2 there will be 5 characters on each side in a single banner and you can select who to target. But unfortunately, there is still a 50-50 chance to pull them. Additionally, the anniversary banners will share the same pity count as regular limited banners, which is great for players that already are close to pity or may have a guarantee and want to pick up a rerun character over one of the new limited characters. Now, as for the characters themselves, Phase 1 will feature our new limited character Zani, and alongside her, there will be reruns for Jiyan, Yinlin Zhezhi, Xiangli Yao and Phoebe. With Zani in specific, alongside being a Spectral main DPS, she is considered as the first anniversary character, which means she is expected to deal an immense amount of damage for a DPS. As of now, it's a bit difficult to establish what she will specialize in as she is yet to be released, but the bare minimum is that she would be capable of clearing through endgame content such as Tower of Adversity pretty easily. However, since her attacks whilst using a greatsword seem to have great range, it means Zani could especially be great for Whimpering Wastes. Lastly, Zani will have the ability to detonate all Spectral Frazzle stacks on enemies at once, which means she will definitely want to be paired with characters that can inflict Spectral Frazzle. So given there are 3 characters in total that are able to, and with one of them being Rover, Zani does have solid team flexibility and can work in various compositions. With all of that alongside the fact again Zani is the Annie character and of course her stunning animations, Zani likely will be one of the best DPS characters in the game, but that will be confirmed shortly after her release. As for the general himself, Jiyan is still currently our only main aero DPS and arguably has one of the most easiest playstyles in the game, considering you just want to trigger his liberation as soon as and would spam basic attacks, which deal damage to enemies whilst crowd controlling them and can essentially auto parry. In terms of team flexibility, there are a handful of compositions that he works in, but the best part is that they are extremely easy to build. Aside from Ciaccona now being a viable sub-DPS option for Jiyan, there is Mortefi and Alto, which are both 4-star characters. So with that, alongside the fact that Jiyan is within the top 3 best DPS characters for Whimpering Wastes, the general has definitely aged quite well. However, if you are after a powerful aero main DPS, you should know that Kartathea is likely releasing as one within the first phase of version 2.4, which will likely, in terms of DPS at least, power creep Jiyan as the new best aero main DPS. Both Yinlin and Zhezhi are pretty similar as they are 2 of the most prominent sub-DPS characters in the game, given they do synergize with top main DPS characters such as Jinhsi Carlotta and Xiangli Yao. Of course, with the fact that Zhezhi synergizes with Jinhsi and Carlotta much more would allow her to hold a slight edge over Yinlin, but sooner or later that can definitely flip if a new powerful Electro main DPS does drop. Between them, they both deal considerable damage. Not exactly game-changing damage, but good enough to rely on some of their abilities. However, you ideally want these characters mostly due to their outro skills, as they can each amplify a certain attribute's damage alongside another specific damage type. So with that, both characters are incredibly flexible and would definitely hold great long-term value, given there will certainly be new Ice and Electro main DPS characters that can utilize their outro skills. So as some of the best sub-DPS characters in the game, Yinlin and Zhezhi will only age like fine wine on your account. Now Xiangli Yao is in a bit of an awkward situation as he was free in version 1.2, which means a lot of players should have already picked him up. However, if you did start just after version 1.2, Xiangli Yao is still a solid main DPS and can in fact perform quite well in every mode within the game, which is due to his attacks dealing explosive damage with amazing range. On top of that, he can be utilized as either a main DPS or a quick swap dual DPS, which leads to having great synergy with characters such as Yinlin, Changli, Yang and Jiyan. So Xiangli Yao has definitely aged quite well and is surprisingly still amazing for a character that was given for free. Now with that said, he isn't exactly amongst the best DPS characters anymore, as better main DPS characters have dropped since his release. Also, I personally find that Xiangli Yao needs a bit more investment with his echoes and would prefer to have his signature weapon to perform very well. But if that can be provided, Xiangli Yao is still a machine in both endgame modes despite being free. Wrapping it up for phase 1 will be none other than Phoebe, which did release not too long ago and so is still just as valuable within 2.3. However, she is in fact going to be even more valuable within 2.3 due to the release of Zani, given they both will synergize extremely well together and will be one of the strongest duos within the game. Phoebe has the ability to switch between two different states that enable her to play either as a main DPS or sub DPS, allowing her to be quite versatile in different compositions, but of course is best within a Spectrofrazzle orientated team. Up until now, Phoebe has been utilized more as a main DPS and has been able to cleave through a lot of content, but she does struggle a bit to provide as much value within her confession state as a sub DPS. However, that will certainly be changing with the release of Zani, which means Zani is going to be amazing for Phoebe as she now will be able to utilize both forms at max potential, therefore making Phoebe an even more valuable character within 2.3 as both main DPS and sub DPS. Now as for phase 2 and arguably the more hectic side of version 2.3. Alongside our new limited character Ciaccona, Jinhsi, Changli, Carlotta, Roccia and Brant will be making their return and are all insanely valuable characters. Firstly, with Ciaccona in specific, it is confirmed that she is an Aero sub DPS and has quite a few special abilities. Not only can Ciaccona deploy clones of herself on the field to distract enemies, but performs a small concept within her liberation and remains on the field even when switching characters, whilst also inflicting enemies with either Aero Erosion or Spectrofrazzle stacks, grants an Aero damage bonus to allies, generates Concerto energy efficiently, crowd controls enemies through her Forte Gauge ability, and to top it off, amplifies Aero Erosion damage of her allies through her outro skill. So it's clear to see that Ciaccona is a stacked sub DPS and I believe is intended to be best in slot for Kartathea, but of course can also synergize with other Aero characters alongside Spectro characters such as Zani and Phoebe due to inflicting stacks of Spectrofrazzle. So Ciaccona will be amazing within multiple meta compositions and really does have potential to be great within any type of content. So with that, it might be a bit early to say this, but from what we can currently see, Ciaccona definitely looks like one of the most valuable characters in the game. Now regarding the rerun banners, both Jinhsi and Carlotta will be the available main DPS characters and without a shadow of a doubt, are both still amazing main DPS characters that can clear through a lot of content. They may not clear when playing Waste in specific as easily as other DPS characters, but can still manage in the right hands. With Carlotta being much more recent between the two, she is still in fact the only character with two different liberation animations, which is of course a massive factor factor to consider if you are prioritizing aesthetics. Aside from that, a major difference between both DPS characters is that Carlotta is capable of dealing damage through multiple instances, whereas Jinhsi deals 2 massive attacks, being the Enhanced Resonance skill and Liberation, which means there is more of a damage loss if you do miss your crits with Jinhsi, but that does also mean more snapshot damage if you do consistently crit. Both characters are quite close in terms of DPS, so due to the fact that Carlotta has more team flexibility than Jinhsi, along with the fact that she does perform better within WutheringWaves overall, between the two, Carlotta will be the best main DPS within the second phase of 2.3. But it doesn't take away from the fact that Jinhsi is still one of the best DPS characters you can pick up, given she does have the ability to hover in midair above enemies and deal the highest amount of damage in a single ability. As for the fusion duo Changli and Brant, they are both pretty similar to each other and at the same time do ideally want to be together, considering Brant is a fusion burst damage dealer that amplifies fusion and resonance skill damage, which then allows Changli to deal even more burst damage and to perform as one of the best characters in WutheringWaves. Both characters are capable of amplifying fusion damage and another specific damage type, which means just like Yinlin and Zhezhi, they will have great long-term value and can synergize with many different main DPS characters that eventually drop. So it's a given that both will also have great team flexibility. But the fact that Brant can also shield the active resonator, heals allies, has arguably one of the most fun playstyles in the game and can play as a support due to his healing, it means Brant isn't only the most valuable fusion character between the two, but one of the most valuable characters in the game by far. Although, as I mentioned, both Changli and Brant will definitely want to be together. So if you are a fan of either of them, then it's best to ensure you do have the other to maximize the potential of their kits. Now lastly, as for Roccia, a Havoc sub DPS that can amplify Havoc and basic attack damage, alongside increasing allies' attack through her liberation and crowd controlling enemies through multiple abilities, allows Roccia to be an incredible sub DPS within numerous compositions. Her specialty, however, will be her ability to crowd control enemies within WutheringWaves, as she does make it a ton more easier for your main DPS to clear through waves of enemies. Though aside from that, and due to Sanhua's existence, she does majorly impact Roccia's overall value, and especially since Sanhua is a free 4-star character. In terms of performance, Sanhua is extremely close to Roccia and in some cases is a better option, so the value Roccia provides on top of Sanhua might not be enough to warrant pulling for. But if you are still interested in Roccia for any specific reason, the fact that she can amplify multiple damage types through her outro skill, alongside having the best crowd control ability in the game and dealing considerable damage, Roccia would still hold enough long-term value to be considered as a great character for your account. Overall, each of these characters do hold quite a bit of value regardless of when they initially released. Some will hold more value than others in specific types of content, but in general, and due to the fact that power creep isn't significant in WutheringWaves, even if there are better options on the way, every limited 5-star is valuable and viable in majority of modes. Now as for who you should prioritize, as of now it's clear to see that most characters will synergize incredibly well alongside another certain character, such as Carlotta and Jinhsi with Zhezhi, Changli with Brant, and the newest duo will be Zani with Phoebe. So this anniversary will be a golden opportunity to complete a specific duo you are aiming to use, but it goes without saying that the more recent duos will hold more value overall. Also, it isn't mandatory to form these duos, as each of these characters can still perform and synergize well with alternatives. Now aside from that, and in regards to specific roles, the best main DPS overall will be a toss-up between Zani and Carlotta. Fortunately, Carlotta is after Zani, so if you want both of them, then it might just be possible if you have been saving your Ashtrites. As for the best sub DPS, due to each of them holding a ton of long-term value, you really can't go wrong with who you pick up. Zhezhi does of course synergize incredibly well with both Carlotta and Jinhsi, which means she can provide immense value for 2 top-tier DPS characters. However, there is also Brant that can provide insane survivability and can in fact play as both sub DPS and support, which allows him to hold incredible value despite mainly being utilized alongside Changli. Although, and to no surprise, as mentioned, Ciaccona is most likely going to be the best in slot sub DPS for Kartathea, which I suspect is dropping in the first phase of version 2.4. So maybe not on release, but Ciaccona soon after might be the best sub DPS since she will specialize in supporting potentially the best main DPS. On that note, do bear in mind exactly that when summoning in version 2.3. I assumed Kartathea was going to be the best main DPS before, but now after seeing players have almost every banner to spend their Ashtrites on just before 2.4, it certainly makes it even more believable. So as amazing as the opportunity is to pull for almost any character in 2.3, I definitely would advise to just be cautious and not to blow your entire load before version 2.4. And with that, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'd really appreciate it if you could subscribe for more WutheringWaves content, and if you enjoyed the video, drop a like. Also drop a comment down below on who exactly are you most hyped to pull for in version 2.3. And yeah, hope to catch you guys later.